2030, Gen Z will be 30% of the global workforce. They are coming with certain expectations. They are purpose-driven, they are digital native, they bring a lot of fresh perspective. They are particularly interested in flexibility, in sustainability, in values. What can companies like Henkel do to attract them, but also to retain them? That's a key question for us. On the other hand, how can they help us to shape our future? Companies like us, 150 years old, what can we learn from them? What can we learn when it comes to multi-generational work? What can we learn about the way they see the world and they see the work? I'm very happy to welcome today Leonie. Welcome.
Thank you. Hello.
A representative of Gen Z who is sharing with us today her insights and helping us to learn, obviously. So Thank you very much for taking the time.
Of course. Thanks.
I'd like to start with a question for you. Mm-hmm. So maybe you can help me to understand further what your generation is expecting from employers.
Yes. So when I was thinking about these questions, I've been going back to myself. Why have I chosen Henkel as a big corporation as opposed to an NGO, for example? Because I'm interested in sustainability. And what I've always been striving for is a company with an ambition that aligns with my values and my beliefs, and a company that is striving also for progress, for social and economic progress, but not at the cost of burning its workforce, so to say. So taking care of its employees in terms of health, of benefits and whatever comes to that, and also offering a job that is more than 9 to 5 sitting at a desk, but a job that aligns with values that I said, and for example also combines a purpose as strong as Henkel has, as you said in your introduction, and has those strong values that we want to bring further and that the younger generation especially has in their identity.
And do you think your expectations are very different from former generation? You also have families, friends, parents, or you simply talk more about the things? What is really different from your perspective?
Yeah, good question. I think it's that we are more vocal about this and that we feel that we can demand more, because we know also in the working market talents are needed and that companies are looking for talents. So we know we can demand certain things and we want to demand something that gives us purpose. That's at least what I have always been hoping for.
I love that. I think that's already a great difference. I would never have dared to say that, when I was your age, that you can demand and you have the choice. So I think that's a big difference, the daring.
It's daring. It's definitely daring. And I think that's maybe also when we talk about, we're talking about Gen Z here. And obviously there's generational conflict, not only within families, but also within big companies like Henkel and any societal group. And maybe this stems also from this point that we feel that we can be demanding and other generations have not been because they did not feel they have the right to be. So now they're looking at us a little bit like, you have not put so much effort in yet. So why are you demanding this? But it's just another way of approaching things, I guess.
Yeah, and I think, as you said, they look at you. I don't think they're jealous. I think they're curious. Yeah. I think they're intrigued. I can also speak for myself.
Good.
It's really like, being intrigued by this daring, this authenticity that you bring in companies, but which comes also with a lot of, shaking the tree in a sense, and forcing maybe others to think differently. Do you feel resistance or do you feel support? Do you feel understanding? Because you work with very different generations at Henkel, obviously.
Yes.
So how does that feel?
At Henkel, I've always felt welcomed and supported. And of course, there are different perceptions about things which might be generation related. But also looking at the generational term, this term of generations, it's also criticized because we cannot put all people under one blanket and say just because they have roughly the same age, they have the same experiences, feelings and whatever. In a company as big as Henkel with 47,000 employees, individuality is highly rated, and I feel that this is being supported here. When we look at a broader society, I feel there are misunderstandings and misperceptions about Gen Z, especially because people might feel or say that Gen Z is lazy, that we are social snowflakes that have to be protected, that we are more interested in self-fulfillment than in driving economic success, which then would be not beneficial for a company. But I think that at Henkel, it's been well realized that we are now talking for a generation, are actually hardworking and want to be hardworking if set into the right positions. And these are the positions that have value, that have purpose, that we feel that we have impact on the company and on our colleagues. And maybe you can also share, like when you started your career, and not only at Henkel, but into your professional life, did you also had those moments where you thought there's like a generational conflict or some kind of missing support maybe for your ideas and values?
My impression is that this topic of, each generation is looking at the other one with a certain sense of criticism is a never-ending story. I think that, that happened to previous generations as well. I think my parents were looking at my generation with certain eyes. And I think it's a bit in the nature of things.
Yes.
Because society is evolving. And obviously each generation will be different from the previous one. And maybe each generation will look at the next one with curiosity or sometimes not understanding fully. So I think I felt the same, but maybe on different topics. I also think that we talk more about it today. That's my impression. Yeah. It was felt, but it was not necessarily discussed in the past. Yeah. Today, it's really discussed very openly. Like you, I heard, Gen Z is lazy, which I always try to counter-argue because I can only speak from experience. Yeah. I work with a lot of Gen Z around me in my team. They are everything but lazy. I also have Gen Z at home. They are everything but lazy in my environment. So that's really not something I experience. Yeah. I think it's a bit of a myth. And also this, the fact that your generation is speaking more about life in general and expectations in life and maybe less about work only.
Yes.
Is leading to that misunderstanding. Yeah. My generation was certainly less daring to talk about expectations in life, but that doesn't mean we didn't have some.
Definitely.
And it's just that we didn't dare always to bring them to the surface. And that makes a huge difference. And I always say when I'm asked about, differences of generation, there is no right or wrong. There's just a different way to talk, to address the challenges. Yeah. But I also have to say, observe in companies some previous generations who are very happy to benefit from the fights that your generation is taking. Yeah. So that's also something to acknowledge. So leading me to, the question to you, how do you think your generation can help to shape the future of companies like us, contribute to changing the culture eventually?
Especially with regards to sustainability, because, the topic is close to my heart. I've recently seen a statistic where it shows that people have been asked what they conceive or perceive as drivers and obstacles to sustainable transformations of companies. And maybe this is also transferable then to cultural transformation in general, because sustainability is always a question of culture as well. And that most people who have been surveyed have answered that the future workforce, as well as the young generation, will be core drivers of this sustainable transformation. And with that also of a cultural transformation. Because what I feel is that, as we have established, we are demanding things. And companies, righteously so, are advertising with especially that they put sustainability at the forefront, that they have a strong culture of belonging, of impact and everything that goes with it. So when I now enter a company based on this promise that has been made in the recruitment process, and I notice this is not happening in the company, then I'm gone. I'm going not to be happy at the job. But when I see there's room for this, there's actually improvement in sustainability, progress in that, there's cultural transformation happening, then we can be driving forces behind that, because we want to build it inside out, because we're expecting it from the companies. And this is not only for younger generations. This is all the generations that are present at a company, because I see that here at Henkel, so many people, so many intelligent people are working in sustainability, are interested in sustainability, and they are eager to learn about this, eager to drive the topic. Same for cultural transformation, and they want to foster it from within. And I feel that this is happening. So establishing this connection between luring people somehow in with the promise of a good culture, of good sustainability progress, and then actually acting on it.
Delivering on promises, if
Exactly.
I hear you. So that's this authenticity thing, that if you don't find what you were promised, you might leave very fast. Which is really an encouragement for companies to really show who they are, actually. And no company is perfect, actually. Many of us are on a journey, be it on sustainability, on culture, on diversity, on many other topics, but just being transparent on where we are, who we are, and what we are after, without over-promising.
Absolutely, and also taking it as an advantage, because and you introduced that in the beginning, that the younger generation is interested in flexibility and in sustainability, and then in the recruitment process, and you're an expert here, you can really make this to your advantage, because you know that you can appeal to their sense of these topics to bring people in. So maybe also a question for you: what do you notice nowadays in the younger generation, in Gen Z? What are their demands and core beliefs when you have them in the recruitment process?
So some of them we covered, actually. I think that's really about, what can I expect from the company, and especially on topics related to values, culture, sustainability, diversity. That plays a very important role. The candidates really want to understand what they will find. And if they will land in an environment where they can be their true self, they can really belong somehow to this group of people they will join. So that's really one of the top questions that we receive in interviews with Gen Z. Then comes also the topic of career. And it's not different from previous generations, actually. They are very curious to know what we have to offer in terms of career development. Maybe not using that word, that's what is interesting. It's more behind, what kind of experience can I do? Can I change easily from one department to another? Can I go abroad? If I'm interested in a field which is very different from what I studied, is there an opportunity to bridge? So it's really about how can I develop myself and have different experiences, where maybe for previous generation it would have been more about career development, vertical experience. So that's a real difference, I have to say. But still, it's about development. It's about personal development. And that's very outspoken in the conversation. For sure, lots of questions on ways of working. Is it very hierarchical? Is there flexibility? So that's really prominent. Here we have a lot to tell. We have a lot to tell on careers, on development, because as you know, we are very open at Henkel for people changing roles, changing careers. That's really something which we believe in for individuals, but also for the business. Simply, we believe that we do better business if we have different perspectives. But also, we're working hard on the culture we want to establish, being very open, very, very transparent, giving a voice to people, and making sure everybody belongs and feels safe at work. For sure, questions on diversity and inclusion are also very prominent. And that's something where, we feel strong, not only because it's a request from Gen Z, but just because we believe in it. We believe that it's better for all of us, it's better for the business. But maybe you can tell me, what is your perspective on that? Because you had a before and an after joining Henkel. So maybe you had an impression before you joined. And I'm curious to know if this impression was confirmed or has changed. So how do you think about diversity and inclusion at Henkel?
It's absolutely been confirmed, and more than that. I mean, what you see on the surface, on the website, for example, it can always only depict a certain part and what you read into it, of course. And it's a different thing of saying something on the website, for example, on social media channels and everything, and then experiencing it firsthand here within the company. And I've been positively surprised by diversity, equity, and inclusion, how it's being handled at Henkel. Also on sustainability, then again, which is very, very close to each other. And seeing how many resources there are to inform and upskill, how many groups there are to get active, how many people and advocates there are who are actively driving the topic, how many events we have to give a voice to people who are working in these fields or are engaging in this field at Henkel, is super, super impressive. And I'm and I'm proud to be working for a company like this, because as we have established, value-driven working is a core want, a core wish for my generation. And having this within a company, I think it's still not, it's very broadly done by many companies, but it's not always done to perfection, and it's not done to perfection anywhere, I guess. But
it's a learning journey.
It's a learning journey always. But I think that we are all on a very, very good way here, sticking to our values and keep on going with the strategy that we have, and also leveraging that through our brands and through our people.
As a Gen Z representative, if I can say that,
yes.
Is there any advice you would like to give to leaders of my generation?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what we can do better, what we can improve going forward?
I think it's not very different from approaching people joining the company of any age. It's just staying open and without any stereotypical thinking, because we are very quick to put on the generation glasses and say, okay, Gen Z is lazy, for example, or we have to treat them very special. You don't have to. When we have a strong corporate culture, as we do have at Henkel, we can use that to build on it, to take needs seriously, to take fields seriously, and to leverage on the potential that Gen Z or younger generations in general are bringing. Because we have great ideas and we would want to put them in place, but we have to be in the right place, I feel, or at least many people. We have to be with the right company and the right job. And identifying this, and this is also then a question of leadership for sure, really makes the deal. So when we are put in the right match also within our teams, then it's not a question of generations anymore, but just a question of team play and competence.
So don't be biased.
Don't be biased, exactly.
Don't be afraid. Be curious and talk.
Exactly.
At the end.
Like for everyone else, and then maybe also in your direction when we talk about leadership, and you are a leader at the company, how do you feel, has leadership changed towards Generation Z? And do you also maybe have an advice for young generation leaders then in their leadership roles later?
Yeah, I've observed a lot of changes, and for the better. I think we've been moving from very hierarchical, authoritative leadership to more empathetic and caring leadership. And I'm a strong believer that the truth is certainly in the middle. It's about balance, like many things in life. And, you know, the advice to leaders in general, and I think it's independent from generations, is it's not because you lead that you know everything. You need great people around you. You need to be open, to listen, to really take the benefit of all the value that your team is bringing. And certainly with that, you become a better leader. So that's what I mean by also empathetic leadership. You know, be open, be curious. And I also believe that being a leader is a continuous journey. It's not because you've reached a leadership position that you're a great leader. That's not how it works. You have to permanently reflect, re-challenge who you are, how you lead, make yourself vulnerable and accept your weaknesses to drive progress. And I think that across generations, age or experience, it's really about self-reflection and making sure that you drive your own progress for the benefit of your team.
Definitely.
Thank you very much for being with me today.
Thank you for the talk. It was very nice.
Thank you.